part of this community, and we are so honored to be able to facilitate this celebration of life for Matt Rinker. I'm Kathy Dwyer. I'm one of the pastors here, and again, just an honor to be able to facilitate this program. A couple of notes. All the music today, unless otherwise indicated, was written by Matt. Following the service, there will be a reception in Carpenter Hall. That is, so if you go out these doors, you're going to go across the campus, and you'll see there are other buildings on the other side of our campus. If it's more graceful for you to use an elevator rather than going downstairs, we have an elevator down the hall this way, and there will be ushers that can guide you to that following the service. We will have a memory book for you to register so that you can sign the book to let the family know that you are here today. That will be on your way into the reception following the service. There are restrooms at the bottom of the steps at the back of the sanctuary, and there's also an inclusive restroom right down this hall, out the door to the right, directly to the left. The guest book, the reception, I think I have handled all the important housekeeping things for today, except if you have some more room in your row, if you can scooch to the center, if more people come in. We do have overflow planned, but I know everybody, there's nothing like being here in person. So if we have a need for that, that would be a great act of hospitality. And now, Kenny, we'll have reflections from you.
So my name's Kenny Armstrong. I grew up with Matthew and Natalie and Jeremy, just a block away. We were at each other's houses all the time growing up. I was there when Matthew got his first guitar and started playing. And then eventually, over the years, I took an interest in that and started to play also, just for myself, and I still play to this day. But all the way, Matthew encouraged me, taught me, and I'm forever grateful for that. He gave me that gift, and that has always stuck with me. So I'm just very grateful for having known him during those years and getting that gift from him of music.
Hi, I'm Elmira, and I realized this morning that in 1966, when I got married, Laura was pregnant with Matthew, so I knew him essentially from the beginning. And Matthew was named for the book of Matthew in the Bible, which is the womb-to-tomb story of Jesus and all the wonderful things he did, but also sort of how to live your life is what's in the book of Matthew. And I think somehow that must have been absorbed before he was born, because that's the kind of person that he was. And the first time I actually saw him in person was when they lived in D.C. on California Street, and we were going to conquer the world there in that place. But Matthew was the little kid that you'll see in some of those pictures, and he had on a Superman suit, and he was terrorizing California Street in his Superman suit, but always with a sense of joy. It wasn't mean, it was just wonderful. And so joy, in a sense, in terms of all of these years, has been the keystone of what Matthew's life was. It was about joy. So when he dragged some of us into liking jazz when he was a teenager, there was a joy in that, some of us were more reluctant than others, but but it was there. And so the joy for us when he finished at Howard and he was playing his own compositions just kind of blew our minds like totally. So we just knew that Matthew and joy and music were all together, and we knew something about the gift that he got from his mother for the appreciation of music. And there were many good times, like the wedding in this church, and some hard times that we've all been through in the past few years. But we are grateful, so grateful for being a part of Matthew's family all of these years, and the joy that he shared with us and gave us as a gift for our life. And this is my son, Kenny. And what kind of family we were was that Matthew was Kenny's cousin, right? So we are truly family.
Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it
As long as I can remember, my brother had a guitar in his hand. My mother played guitar as well, and they would play together and sing. There were many nights that my mother and brother put us to bed playing the guitar. We would request more and more songs because we didn't want to go to bed. The song I remember requesting the most was "Leaving on a Jet Plane" by John Denver. Another favorite was "Bad, Bad Leroy Brown." Our childhood was marked by days of running around the neighborhood with cousins and friends, playing chase, climbing on garage roofs. My dad had a black box truck he used for work, and we would jump out of the back pretending to be SWAT. Once a year, the family would go to Rehoboth Beach, and I remember these vacations fondly, body surfing the waves with my brothers all day long, eating boardwalk fries and playing skee ball. Music continued to be my brother's passion. He was in many bands over the years. The first one I remember, I'm guessing, was about 6th grade, and it was called Drain Bramage. I remember him making band t-shirts with iron-on letters. When he got his room in the basement, it became a place for band practice. My brother introduced me to rock and roll, and I was very fortunate to have a mentor with such discerning taste. Those days were very influential to me. He would always make sure I paid attention to the guitar solo, and if a song did not have a guitar solo, it wasn't a good song. I went with him to my first arena rock show, Van Halen 1984. My brother liked superheroes. We would watch Saturday morning cartoons together, cheering on the Justice League and Spider-Man. He would fly around the house like a superhero in a costume of wristbands and a headband that he cut off of his pajamas, the pants of his pajamas. After school, watching the original Batman show was like a religion for a while. When I was in my 20s, I decided to send him a birthday gift of a cape and a mask costume I made. A strange gift, but I was pretty sure he would love it, and he did. He never lost his impulse to make things fun. I always admired him for seeming so comfortable in his skin, so warm and self-confident in his interactions with people. For my wedding, we asked him to play Bron Yar by Led Zeppelin. He said, I just knew you would ask me to learn something complicated. He played it perfectly. To sum up, my brother was a rock star. My brother was a superhero. To me, he was certainly both those things and much, much more. I will miss him.
So thanks to Rock Spring for being a central place in the life of my family. Almost 10 years ago to the day, I was standing next to Natalie and Matthew, helping deliver a eulogy for my late father. In my wildest dreams, I never thought I would be standing in the same place and saying some words about the passing of my only brother, especially so soon after my father's funeral. When my father passed, my brother suggested that we wear cowboy hats to his burial. This seemed fitting for a guy that loved old westerns and asked to be buried in the simplest wooden box possible. Today I wear another hat to honor my brother. I think he would approve my attempt to find a hat that looks at least close enough to the type of hat one of his favorite guitar heroes wore, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Matthew's loss will continue to sting. As we all know, it was too soon. While this place holds important meaning for me, and I know it does for Stacy, who met and courted and eventually married with my brother in this community, I cannot say I'm happy to be here again. Still, here I am, marking yet another transition of a great soul to what I can only hope is a better place, a place that I must believe brings joy and reunion with all things good in the universe. Here is where I hear Matthew singing 3 Dog Nights, Joy to the World. He used to sing that to me often. You know, Jeremiah was a bullfrog. He was a good friend of mine. Matthew, we called him that and not Matt, as most of you probably knew him, was my big brother, a little less than 6 years older than me. We only had the overlap of many years in of my early years in the Rinker home before he was off to college and independent life. Many of my early memories of my brother revolved around annual family vacations to Rehoboth Beach or opening our Christmas stockings, which Matthew liked to quickly round up and squirrel off to his room, probably afraid that his siblings would steal his candy. Snow days on Jackson Street usually involved a range of kids of various ages playing outside, Matthew and cousin Kenny, the oldest, with cousin Brian and Natalie coming next. Sometimes cousin Roger on a visit was also there. Natalie had a gaggle of friends, Terry and Lori, and I had Darrow and a little later EJ. Together we would have epic snowball fights that usually ended with either me or one of my friends, the youngest among us, angry and upset. As a younger brother, snowball fights as well as wrestling matches were often lost to the bigger adversary. My brother always said that I would never give up, but I think he later understood the competitive frustration of never having the opportunity to win. In fact, he would often say, "Okay, you win," but I saw through this ruse and continued to fight to win on my own merits. I often wonder how the experience and frustration of defeat helped to chart my own future career aspirations. During his high school years, Matthew moved down into the basement room of our family house. While I was jealous that he got to be on a separate floor of the house from all of us, like my grandmother who lived upstairs, I was also happy that I no longer had to share space with this one. I can remember many nights during his high school days when basement jam sessions went on late into the night, whether it was Joe Elastic and the Rubber Band practicing for the Battle of the Bands, or just a group of Matthew's long-haired friends having a jam session. The basement was now my brother's space, and many of his friends frequented the little speakeasy that he had created. Later, that space would be subsumed by my father's business, but in the early 1980s, it had a drum set and amps littered all over it. It was Matt's space, as the guitar bat he painted on his bedroom wall clearly attested. My freshman year at the University of Pittsburgh, I secured a shared ride to come back for Matthew and Stacy's wedding here at Rock Spring. The rehearsal dinner was on Friday night in Neighborhood House, where the reception will be later. And the shared ride I secured would have gotten me there in plenty of time. But Matthew was worried something would go wrong and I would arrive too late. So he bought me a flight home last minute. Although I had to do the O.J. Simpson run through the airport, jumping things to get there, I did make it on time barely, and all went well. I tell this story as an example of my brother's stubborn character. No manner of telling him that the flight was not needed would deter him from making sure that I took the flight. I think he called me 3 times that day to make sure that I had the flight details and that I was indeed going to make it on time. Over the years, I traveled and lived in Arlington and Alexandria on again, off again, and Matthew was always there. Despite the physical distance, we always had a shared experience as Rinker boys. Eventually, as teachers and as caregivers for an aging mother, Matt took the brunt of the stress and day-to-day logistics of my mom's care, and I tried to thank him for that, despite the reality that this debt can never fully be repaid. While the grief of his loss and memories of his life come flooding back, I could spend hours telling Matthew stories. I know this is not the space for that. Here it's important to say that he will be missed greatly. You were a good big brother, a great big brother, someone I looked up to for your passion for life, your drive for excellence, and commitment to family. Sometimes life got in the way and we would not talk as often as I would have liked. Nonetheless, over the years, we remained close, sharing musical favorites, as well as sports, teaching, and mom stories. The last time I saw my brother, I told him of my excitement to be on my first ever research leave and my desire to finally have time to think through my father's unpublished book project. He responded that he supported that, but that he had spent enough time on, quote, dad stuff. He had other things to do. Other things he wanted to do, music to write, travel to do in retirement. Life is so unfair, his opportunity to do those things was cut short. I love you, Matthew. May you rest in peace and find a place to continue to share your gifts of music, bad puns, and Rinker gab. As you would say often after a long call, quote, let's put a pin in this and come back to it one day. I love you, Matt.
For those of you who are standing, we have some additional seats right up here. We have a whole row on the other transept, and when this next piece of music is playing, I just invite you to find those seats.
Hello, my name is Nancy Ryan, and I have been a friend of Matt's since high school, from the Joe Elastic days. Stacy, our love goes out to you and Paige, Nicole, Jeremy, and dear Laura, the coolest mom. I stand here today on behalf of a friendship group that began in high school. Myself, Angie, Alexis, Guy, and Matt. They are heartbroken that they could not be here today due to illness, but they're watching online. We shared a memorable class called Art English Music, which bonded us over the beauty of paintings, literature, and music. Some of my fondest memories from high school are of sitting at Matt's house in that basement on Jackson Street, listening to him practice guitar. To this day, I can't hear The Girl from Ipanema without thinking of him. Years later, Matt played at Angie and Phil's wedding, gifting them with a rendition of Thank You by Led Zeppelin, a moment they will always treasure. Matt was the embodiment of warmth and kindness, always ready with a hug. We often said to each other, even to this day, I need a Matthew hug when things were not going our way. Our last embrace was just this past October, a cherished moment shared at Angie and Phil's house. Brunch turned into dinner as we all caught up on each other's lives. Retirement, family, new jobs, and exciting, uncertain chapters that lie ahead. The bond we share transcends time and distance, a testament to over 40 years of friendship. Like scattered puzzle pieces, we've wandered through life, only to be reunited every few years, the puzzle complete again. It's hard to accept that Matt, an essential part of that puzzle, is now missing. Our text thread kept us connected through life's ups and downs. Just a few months ago, Matt reflected on his career, texting to our group chat, quote, I have started reminiscing a bunch, mostly teaching related due to all my colleagues and students reaching out. It's cliche to say, but 30 years look shorter in the rearview mirror until you start being reminded of all the individual moments, some beautiful, some terrible, that built those years, unquote. He reminded us that life is made up of small moments, and it's those moments that bring joy and meaning. Matt was a deeply caring person. He inspired hope to those around him, making us believe that change is possible. I am comforted to know that each one of us will honor Matt by carrying hope and embodying the compassion he displayed. Thank you, Matt, for being the light of our lives. We will carry you in our hearts always.
Really appreciate what you said about the Matthew hug. Those were fantastic. I'm thinking of 3 words. Matt and Stacy. 3 words I've said together, thought of together, so many times. It's very natural. For some of you, maybe it's Stacy and Matt. I'm okay with that. We used to joke about putting their 2 last names together. So, and it worked either way, really. You've got Rinker Sturkle or Sturkle Rinker, like a brand new Dr. Seuss character. likely cousin of the Lorax. I remember the first time I met Matt. Rich introduced us. He had the coolest hair. A bunch of long, skinny dreads. Not dreads, I'm sorry, braids. Long, skinny braids. Reminded me of Michael Hedges. Google him later. Oh boy, the first time we jammed together, the three of us, Rich, Matt, and me. What a spark. And instantly fire. And we all took turns blowing on that fire and dancing around that fire. It was beautiful. It was heavy. It was intense. And we all needed a cigarette afterward. Seriously, it was truly magical. I'm so grateful for that day and what came out of that day. We were excited to get out on the road, get up on the stage, and share it with our friends and family. I want to thank my parents for providing us with a space to jam, a space to rehearse. And I want to thank Matt and Rich. For making that space safe. For me, and for all of the musicians who joined us through the years. The spirit of improvisation, I think, is about channeling energy. And Matt was gifted with that. When he played, he and the music were one. Being part of the rhythm section, I don't know, the rhythm section often is considered sort of underneath the music. So it was an honor to be there in that seat and to be able to push Matt and lift him literally up onto his toes. And if you have ever seen him take a solo, you would remember the face that he would make, as if something stunk. Really, really bad. And the worse it stunk, the better it sounded. I want to say thank you to Stickman, who I got to see last December. And they had him practically running in place, up on his toes, literally up on his toes, and it was beautiful to see that. The picture on the program reminds me of that. I was working at the hardware store, Virginia Hardware, when we started the band Graffiti. And I can still remember Matt coming in to buy some nails, common nails, That's the most basic nail, you know, the nail with a head on it. That's your common nail. And I waited on him, and I weighed out, you know, it was the mom and pop shop, so we weighed them out by the pound. And I can remember him buying some common nails. Right about this time, we had gotten started on, I think maybe our second original tune. And Rich and I had this sort of funky drums and bass thing going, and somebody said, "Hey, Matt, can you play something Egyptian on top of that?" And so he did, came up with a melody that sort of sounded Egyptian, and sometime after that day that he came into the hardware store, he said, "Hey, I got an idea for some lyrics for this tune." And you mentioned puns. Somebody mentioned puns. It's a great play on words. It's called 2-Ton Common Nails. And I'm just going to go ahead and recite the first verse. Gonna build me a shelter from the ways of the world. Gotta get away from this madness that's unfurled. Gonna build it real big for all my friends to come inside. Gonna build it strong. Gonna build it wide. I need some love. I need some peace. I need some magic, and if all else fails, 2-ton common nails.
Sure. Good day. Working with Matt and Alex has been the most incredible part of my life, foundation, cornerstone. Matthew was an incredible teacher. Matthew was a wonderful, wonderful instructor, as you can see by the many musicians up here. One thing that he was always just strict about was the one. He taught us about certain technical rhythms, very polytechnical rhythms. But he always said, always go to the one. So before I take my seat, I'd like to honor Matt. I'm going to count to 3. You can either clap or you can snap your finger, but could you at least just hit the one? For Matt. 1, 2, 3, 4.
You said 3.
That was good. Love you all. Stacy, I love you very much. Garrett, Paige, all right. And Kenny, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you, man. You had the same hair as Matt.
Beautiful, brother.
the steps of world. Gonna build it real big for all my friends to come inside. Gotta build it strong, gotta build it wide. I need some love, I need some peace, I need some magic, and if all else fails, pick my common nails, 2-ton common nails. Well, the government's spending trillions on defense, and all this at the people's, not the people's expense. Gotta build a better world for all the children to dwell. Let's turn it all around. Their father's place, big from real hell. I need some love, I need some peace, I need some magic, and if all else fails, just some common nails. That 2-ton common nails. Ow!
One day Stacy and I were in the narthex of the church, and there was a group of other people, students her age, up in the chancel, and she looked at me and said something about the terrible selection of boys there was around her those days. And I looked up at the chancel and I said, well, what are you looking for? And she said, well, this and that. And then she said, I'd like them to have broad shoulders. And I said, well, look up there. Matt Rinker has broad shoulders. What do you think? And that was it. I just had a grin and I walked away, and that was it. And that was Matt Rinker. Well, the first kiss for Matt and Stacy was when they were in a play. The youth group here was called Yours, and they had a play every year, and somehow Matt and Stacy were cast in a play opposite each other, and they had to have a stage kiss. So they were coached on how to kiss. So their first kiss was on stage. It was a stage kiss. The problem was Matt was supposed to dip her, and don't you know, when he dipped her, he dropped her on the floor. I was busy around the kitchen one day, and I got a phone call from Laura, Matt's mother. And didn't know her too well, but I thought, well, that's interesting. And so I talked to her for a little bit, and she chatted, and then she said, Matt would like to ask Stacy out. What would she like to do? And I said, well, why doesn't he ask her the usual things, like a movie or this or that? And she said, well, I think he tried and it didn't work. I said, well, I don't know what to tell you. She said, what does she really like? And I said, well, she really likes to ice skate. And so Matt asked her ice skating, and that was their first date. The first time Stacy ever saw Matt in a band was his band played over in Neighborhood House. That's the church building on the backside of the church there, a separate building. And the band played, and that's where Stacy saw him play. And apparently somehow they talked after that. I don't know much about that. After that, they did some dating, just the usual kind of dates, but then they became friends and they just sort of hung out a lot together. They hung out at his house, and of course music was really big. His band practiced over there because he had a music room there, and that family was much bigger than our family, so there was a lot of people coming and going and things going on. Our house was a very small family, but we had a bumper pool table, and they played that, and we were near Missionhurst, which was a monastery, and it was a lovely garden and a lovely walk, and they used to walk there. So they decided to go to separate colleges, and they visited each other back and forth, and that was their story until they got older.
Okay, before our next piece, I'm going to give permission for all those people standing in the back. We've got 6 seats over here. I know we can make a little room. We're standing room only over at Upper Neighborhood House. So there are a lot of people here. Here you go. And Linda, I just absolutely loved hearing that story. Stacy told me a version of it. I love your version, Linda.
we didn't know how to capture how much he meant to us. So we're each going to tell you words and phrases that we think of when we think of him. And we'll end by each making a promise to him.
Best dad ever.
Best friend.
In giggles or in silence, the best dad to ride to middle school with.
Always ready to sing show tunes with me to make dishes more fun.
Kayaking, camping, and hiking buddy.
Best post-school concert Slurpee buddy.
Best campfire accompaniment.
Loved a good dad joke.
Vibrant.
Warm.
Devoted.
Creative.
Goofy.
Caring.
We promise to continue to make up silly songs for any otherwise mundane activities.
We promise to keep charging $37.50 when anyone asks anything of us.
And we promise never to talk during a guitar solo and clap at all the right times.
We love you.
All right, here's Matt and Garrett. They're going to sing the song of Gisela Figida Bufla. I think I said that right.
It's the national anthem.
It's the national anthem.
National
Okay.
Of Gisela Figida Bufla.
Very funny national anthem.
Gisela Figida Bufla is so much fun to say. Gisela Figida Bufla, hey, 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 hey. Gisela Figida Bufla, every night and every day. Gisela Figida Bufla is so much fun to say.
Yep.
Wiener dog, pinky tinsel pig. Christmas time is almost here, make the pudding made of fig.
Stacy, Paige, and Garrett, and the Rinker family. My heart is broken. My friend Matt and I both came to APS as elementary instrumental music teachers in 1994. In 1995, we both transferred to Gunston Middle School, where Matt was the band director and I was the orchestra director. Back then, Matt had a long braid down his back, and Paige was a baby. Our programs were small back then, and we worked hard to build them. My friend Matt worked alongside me at GMS for 17 years. We presented concerts, organized school trips and parent meetings, ordered equipment, and built and recruited new students to our music department together. We even shared a room in the trailer together one year. We chatted nearly every day during our planning period, and I'm sure we did some work, but mostly we got nothing done. My friend Matt was a wonderful band and guitar teacher. His students, the staff, and the band parents all adored him, and that's shown by all of them who are here today. There's so many of you. He gave his student musicians composition projects and composed his own pieces for them to play. He was the creator of a great idea called the practice sandwich, which I stole from him, full disclosure. He started and grew the jazz band at Gunston, which was not common to have one in most schools at that time. My friend Matt didn't put up with any nonsense from students or anyone, really. When Paige was my student at Wakefield, Matt came as a chaperone on the music trip to Florida. When the bus driver got lost and was driving a bit haphazardly, Matt waited until the kids got off the bus. Then he went up to the front of the bus with another parent and reamed out the bus driver. I was so glad because he took care of it. I didn't have to do it. My friend Matt was a deeply warm-hearted soul. Matt and Stacy were incredibly kind and caring to me and my family when we went through a very difficult period in our lives. But I was overwhelmed when on a school night, Matt drove all the way up to the University of Maryland in College Park to be there for my daughter Sarah's senior violin recital. He was there to support us when we were hurting, and because of that, his generosity of spirit meant the world to both Sarah and to me. When I saw my friend Matt this past summer, he was happy, smiling ear to ear, so proud of his family, laughing and talking up a storm. That's how I will always remember you, my dear friend, playing your guitar, joyful, and giving to all those who surrounded you with love. I hope you knew how many were touched by your bright presence in our lives.
I first met the Rinker family last century as one of the spouses and partners of the DC Self-Defense Karate Association. Matt was a friend, neighbor, somebody I played music with for decades. Today, a host of others, including Matt, are filling in parts of his life, and I hope to just add a facet. Wherever someone remembers Matt, he lives on in those moments. Matt had an appreciation for all things musical, marveling at the B-flat minor 7 modulation in Days of Wine and Roses, whether or not you're a jazz fan, approaching a gamelan instrument and saying, "Oh, pentatonic, yeah," just admiring the turn of a melody. Design, structure, the impact of music all stood strong for him as a listener, as a player, as a composer, a conductor. He enabled me to appreciate things more. With Matt's broad appetite for music, going to a show with him was always an active and social experience before and after, but rapt attention was the order of the day during. So afterwards, we could pore over aspects of what we saw and heard, and I even remember the time we got to be fanboys who met Ralph Towner, but we can talk about that at the reception. Josh Rhodes and I played with Matt in a trio for years, and we reminisced about Matt's gig bag. just brimming with charts, cables. It was kind of overflowing out the edges. Anything you might need in the increasingly improbable things that could happen when you go to a rehearsal or gig. It still informs my own practice today, and I'll appreciate that. Whenever Matt reached out to play, I was ready with a yes and got to play a host of novel gigs. I got to be a mandolier. I got to relive playing in middle school and high school music ensembles at Gunston, Wakefield, and Yorktown. I even got a chance to visit Matt, or Mr. Rinker, in his classroom, including when he taught both my daughter and his own child in music theory. Those visits showed me how natural it was for Matt to be an educator, and to quote him, help other people discover the power of being an active participant in music making. Peter Brook describes music as an expression of the invisible. I most clearly recall Matt's composing life via his grad school recital at Mason. It was great to play alongside ATS music faculty, friends, students, all of whom came together to play his works. Compositions like Iowa, Road Trip, The Gates of Heracles, so many, even other things you've heard today. All of these things make the invisible fired into the imagination. It was the same with his playing, as you've already heard today. It was great to feel the joy Matt could create through an extended improvisation, ensemble playing, his works. So go, listen to what Matt listened to and composed, play what he played, and realize the power of music to let Matt live on in all those moments. I'll miss him.
There is so much love and light in this room. And it's a beautiful reflection on how we can help Matt live on by manifesting the things that were so meaningful to us about his life. In a moment, I'm going to invite the family to come and light a candle representing one of those things that they'd like to help live on, a promise they'll make as they leave this place to honor his life. And as they do, I invite all of us to reflect on the same thing.
Good morning. I'm Paul, and like all of you, Matt was my friend. We both came to Arlington Public Schools together 30 years ago, and we both retired together about 7 months ago. Matt came to APS right out of Howard University. I came right out of the United States Marine Corps. As you can imagine, at the beginning, people had a difficult time telling us apart. I was the one with the short hair. We came from vastly different worlds. I was a North Texas kid and lived for marching band from middle school all the way through college. Matt grew up in the shadows of Washington, D.C., listening to Zeppelin and playing in rock bands. If we'd have gone to high school together, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have sat at the same table at lunch. I don't really remember our first impressions of each other. At our first countywide arts ed meeting, but I'm pretty sure it was something like, man, that dude's wound a little too tight. And I think Fabio over there could use a haircut. With all of our differences, we somehow gravitated towards each other. I guess mostly because we were both the new kids on the block, and we were both tasked with imparting musical knowledge to creatures known as middle schoolers. We both stole ideas from each other to make it through those first few years. I was always keenly aware that as great a musician as Matt was, his students' enjoyment of the process of music making always took first priority, and his band kids loved him for that. Matt had a gift of always appearing to be the most chill person in the room. He had a way of making those around him feel relaxed and at ease. But underneath that easygoing facade was an intense work ethic. Early on, I wondered how a guitar player who had never even been in a middle school band was going to function as a middle school band director. Matt took the challenge head on. He must have spent countless hours to become competent in all of the fingerings and techniques of the brass and woodwind instruments. By the time students showed up, he was more than prepared to share his love of music with them through the medium of middle school band. Throughout his career, Matt wore many hats as a music educator in Arlington County. He taught elementary instrumental music, middle school band, high school guitar, and advanced placement music theory. He excelled in whatever position he was assigned, but I think he felt most at home teaching guitar and music composition. He was a master at both. One of the highlights of my career was when Matt asked if I would conduct on his Master's in Music Composition graduate recital. He had written a piece for a small adult ensemble and a middle school level march. My students were so excited to perform at George Mason University on a grown-up concert. I'm sure it's a memory that they'll never forget. Afterwards, Matt generously offered to pay them with a pizza party. I thought about how much a pizza party for 68 kids would cost, and I asked him if he would just arrange a little warm-up chorale for us based on the Navy hymn, since we were the Swanson Admirals. Instead of writing a short chorale, Matt researched the World War II Navy destroyer, the USS Swanson, and composed a full 5-minute concert band piece based on one of its sub-hunting missions. Matt was a great colleague, but like many of you, I will miss him most as a friend. We had some great times attending concerts, camping with our sons, getting chased by bees, or just hanging out with a beer. I'm really going to miss that. When one beer turned into 2 or 3, our conversations would inevitably turn to our families. Matt was always eager to share the latest accomplishments of his loved ones. Stacy, Paige, and Garrett, you should know that wherever he was, Matt was thinking of you, he was proud of you, and he loved you more than anything else in the world. And I'm going to miss him too.
Ba-dum-da-dum. Bum, bum. Ba-da-da-da-bum. Dum-da-dum. Ba-da-ba-da-da-bum. Ba-da-da-da-bum. Ba-da-da-da-bum. Bum, bum. Ba-da-da-da-ba-ba-da. Da-da-da-da-ba. Ba-da-da-ba-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-ba-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-da-da-da-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-da-da-ba-da-da. Ba-da-ba-da-da-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-da-da-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da. Ba-da-da-da-ba-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-da-da-da-ba-da-ba-da. Ba-da-da-ba-da-da. Ba-da-ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba-da. Ba-da-da-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da.
Hi, my name is Liza, and I want to say a few words about Matt. Matt was a very good friend of mine and my musical partner in our duet group, Azil Rain, as well as he was the guitarist in another group I'm in called Stickman. And on behalf of the group, myself, Peter, Dawn, Francis, and Jim, I want to let everyone out there know how much we miss him and love him. And his sound was such an integral part of our sound. And he was a kick-ass guitar player and a joy to perform with. my friendship with Matt developed over the last few years through our work in both bands. And he became someone that I grew very close to and someone that I felt that I could share a lot of things with. And he was just such a great guy and a wonderful person. And I know everybody in this room knows that already. Matt, we miss you. We love you. And you will live on with us forever.
Thank you for showing up today. Whether it is via live stream, we know there are many of you watching from home. We know that there is standing room only next door in Neighborhood House, funneled into Carpenter Hall, and all of you here. Your presence today bears witness to the impact of Matt's life. And Stacy, Paige, Garrett, Linda, the rest of the family, I hope that you feel surrounded by the love and comfort in this space. I am going to escort the family out, and then following that, you are invited to the reception next door in Carpenter Hall, where you may greet the family. A reminder, we have a guest book over there. I think I may take a second one, so there is room for everybody to sign. And stay and share your stories, greet the family. Matt will live on through the songs you sing, the music you play, the stories you share, and the way his life impacted yours and the way you will live your life going forward. Thanks again for being here.
So